Hello everyone, just Goran here and welcome to another Zoo Tour Snippets video. I've just come home from a 2-week trip to Germany where I visited over 20 zoos. Now of course many of the exhibits from these zoos will come up in future real life inspiration videos, but not everything, which is why I really wanted to make some videos about all of the places I went, starting over here in Hanover, which was probably my second favorite zoo of the entire trip. There's a good chance I'll make a full zoo tour about Hanover at some point, if people are still interested in that after this video, but for now let's get to some highlights in case I never get around to the full tour. The awesomeness starts right away over here at the entrance. It's just super impressive looking and definitely very inspiring if you ask me. After the entrance, the zoo opens up into this big kind of empty area from which we can start the walking route. The route starts off in Africa in an area called the Zambesi River, which immediately sets the tone for the zoo. Detailed theming, something I'm definitely a very big fan of. We've got mud huts, we've got beautiful rockwork, rope bridges, other types of structures. There's so much eye candy all over the place, and this isn't even the craziest of the zoo's areas. The main draw of the Zambesi River is, well, the river, which has a boat ride that takes you along most of the exhibits in this area, like the 2 savannas, flamingo, hippo, addax, and rhino enclosures. I want to use these snippets videos of all the zoos from my Germany trip as a way to highlight some of the cool exhibits I've seen for species that I've already done real life inspiration videos on, so they won't come up for any time soon at the very least, if at all. So let's do just that. First of all, the black rhino, where I love how the water of the boat ride is visibly kind of connected to the moat on the inside of the habitat. There's quite some complexity to the layout here, and you pass by this exhibit at multiple points throughout your walk through the area, which is pretty cool. You can even eat your lunch with a view of the enclosure and watch the boats go by. The hippo habitat looks absolutely awesome. We go down this canyon-like area where we can see the indoor habitats for them with some underwater viewing, all beautifully integrated into the amazing rockwork over here. The outdoor habitat features a waterfall and of course is also adjacent to the boat ride. I will say the exhibit is a bit on the smaller side. I think I count like 4 or 5 hippos in there. The indoor areas weren't that big either. So while it looks great, I do think it could be bigger. And this is an opinion I have of a lot of exhibits I've seen in Germany actually. But yeah, that's pretty much it for the hippo area. I also went out and checked the feeding, which was pretty cool. The guy feeding the hippos was trying to throw the food straight into the mouth of the hippo. He missed quite a few times, but sometimes he did manage, so that was pretty cool to see over there. But yeah, the next notable animals are the addax and the Somali wild ass, which have a shared enclosure, although they were never outside at the same time when I visited. I guess maybe they don't get along very well. The habitat itself is just a nice open space for 2 kind of deserty animals, and then we have this cool hut over here with some awesome theming, and it talks about the successes that the zoo had breeding addax and helping release them into the wild. There's even a counter over here is telling you how much they've already released back into the wild. The next area of the zoo is still Africa, but it focuses on primates. It has a fitting name, Afi Mountain, which basically translates to Monkey Mountain, but spelled weird. I'll be covering these habitats in some upcoming real-life inspiration videos, since we haven't covered any of these animals yet, so make sure you stay tuned for those. But yeah, this area does have some cool visual storytelling, with this construction company building a road seemingly through the land of some indigenous people. Really neat stuff, and before we move on to the next area, we also get a brief glimpse back into the savannah as well when we get to the lions over here. And again, I love the little bit of storytelling in this area with a crashed airplane and then this parachute hanging from a tree. I think that's so freaking cool. The lion exhibit itself again is nice but could be bigger. It does have a cool panorama effect with the giraffe habitat in the back, so that is really quite nice. Next up might be one of the craziest areas I've seen in any zoo I've been to, the North America area. But before we go in, something I love here is that even the shortcuts around this zoo have a ton of details and theming around them. If you choose not to enter the North America area, you can skip it by taking this path over here, which is still littered with log retaining walls, mine shafts, North America themed buildings like this sawmill over here. It's just so cool. But anyway, no further ado, let's head into the mine shaft over here and we're going to check out Yukon Bay. The first thing we see here is this amazing wolf enclosure with reindeer in the background. The enclosure is divided into several areas and all of it can be combined, making it actually quite a large enclosure. We can see more mines that we can enter as well from here, and from these mines we have more views into the wolf enclosure. As we emerge from the mines, we see an awesome raccoon enclosure as well, and we get some more views of the reindeer and the bison as well. And there's this awesome train over here. We're on a little train station. There's this model train, or a real train, I'm not quite sure. It looks cool. The bison enclosure is quite nice. There is supposed to be a moat in the front, but it was currently drained, probably because there was a baby bison around. So much cool stuff, but we haven't even made it into the bay of Yukon Bay yet. So let's pass through these buildings and check out the polar bear habitat. And I don't even know what to say about this. I think it speaks for itself. It's such a cool enclosure, and to some of you this might all seem a little familiar. If you've watched Iben and I tour Vihauha's Natuuroscope on Iben's channel, you might realize that their polar bear enclosure was heavily inspired by this one. It actually felt so magical visiting this zoo and kind of stepping foot into Vihauha zoos in a way. It's just absolutely incredible. And another thing I thought was so cool about this boat is that it's also an African penguin enclosure. And while this species of course doesn't fit the area geographically, the zoo actually thought of an explanation for this. The idea is that this boat was a traveling penguin zoo of sorts, and it got stuck here in Yukon Bay, and I think that's just such a cute idea and fun way of including this species here, even if the explanation probably goes over a lot of people's heads. The magic of the boat doesn't end here, however. You can still go inside of the boat as well to get underwater viewing of the sea lions, the penguins, and most of all, of course, the polar bears. Both of the two enclosures can be viewed from here, and I was even lucky enough to get to see the polar bears swim by the front of the boat, which is probably the coolest viewing area there is, and that was just absolutely amazing. Other highlights here in Yukon Bay include the Sea Lion show. Even though I couldn't understand most of it, I still thought it was kind of the funniest and at the same time most educational sea lion shows I've ever seen. Just this orca bit over here was, it was so cool. It was so funny. Yeah, I loved it. The restaurant over here is also super awesome, not just the interior and the decorations, all looking amazing as you'd expect at this point. There was also this couple of tables that had a view of the wolf habitat from earlier, so it kind of connects the area together, gives you something interesting to look at while eating, and yeah, it's just really, really cool. The next area is the Indian Temple. Once again, the theming here is absolutely incredible with all the details in these temple ruins, and I love how it's partly overgrown. It really just looks absolutely fantastic. One thing that does come with these temple themings, which I also saw at the Zoo of Osnabrück, is that it often causes the habitats to be a lot more square or have these flat edges, but this zoo definitely makes up for it with all of the details in the enclosure. For instance, in the elephant enclosure, there's all of these staircases and elevation changes. The langer enclosure isn't just a rectangle, there is some more shape brought into it, and then you've got the climbing frame and the plants, and it all just looks a lot more interesting than just a rectangle. A nice surprise in the temple area was that there was this flea market being held by the zoo in this large venue hall that normally you can book for events. Not only was the flea market pretty cool, I ended up buying a little old education sign of the zoo, which was really freaking awesome. But also just getting to see this hall, right, was just absolutely amazing. It looks so cool. It was an absolute treat to be able to see that. I can totally understand why people would rent this place. This is phenomenal. There is some more temple to explore over here as well, featuring some educational bits. Oh, hello. A indoor view of the langurs. Some smaller exhibits like this tree shrew exhibit. What's this way? Oh, nothing.
This used to be bathrooms.
Oh. Well, the lights still work. As well as a leopard exhibit, which was also pretty nice and lush. The rest of the Indian temple area was currently under construction. We could already see this new red panda habitat basically already being complete, and opposite to that, a new exhibit for orangutans is being built. Looks like it's going to be a pretty big one. I'm not sure about some of the design choices, but we'll see it when it's done. I'll probably come back to this zoo in a couple of years. On our way to the next area, we pass by some Australia exhibit. I think the zoo actually counts this space as an area of itself, but come on, it's like two exhibits. There's this larger exhibit for kangaroo and emu, and there's also another exhibit over here for the wombat, which might actually be one of my favorite wombat exhibits, at least that I've seen. Sadly, no wombats inside, however, but I do just love the hill over here and the terrain and the lushness. I love that wombat enclosures can be this lush, even though they're like burrow animals, which you'd expect would tear everything up, but no, not at all. Anyway, the next area of the zoo is the Zoologicum, which does not really have any specific theme or geographical location, and as a result it did feel a little bit underwhelming to me, at least compared to the rest of the zoo, which is just so awesome. This area was not bad by any means, especially the newly opened amphibium was an absolutely awesome building, sleek and modern, really cool species in there, and amazingly designed exhibits. I particularly loved this fire-bellied toad exhibit, which was just open at the top, allowing you to peek in and see everything going on in there. And there was also this Titicaca frog exhibit, which might be one of the largest exhibits I've seen for this species, especially the deepest, and they were really able to like swim around in there. And I even got to see some Titicaca tadpoles swimming around, so that was just super cool. There was also this wall of smaller exhibits with juvenile animals that were being bred. That was really, really cool to see. But the rest of the enclosures in the Zoologicum area were just kind of standard. They don't look bad, but once you're used to the incredibly themed exhibits in the other areas, it does kind of leave you wanting more of that. What was cool, on the other hand, in this area was the fact that these animals are all part of an animal ambassador show. So these animals are taken onto the little stage, and the keepers will show some of their iconic behaviors, will tell something about them, and really put them in the spotlight. Personally, I think the keepers were treating the animals very respectfully. No animals were picked up, pushed, or mishandled, or anything like that. And simply because shows like these tend to draw in so many more people than other educational talks or things like that would, I think they're just a great educational tool, and yeah, I have nothing against what I saw here. It was really nice. The last area of the zoo is a farm area. When I was making my barnyard animal pack videos, I was already told, oh, it's a bummer that you haven't been to Hanover yet, and now I understand why. This farm area is absolutely amazing. It's so well made. I was told they hired specific people that like knew how to build traditional German farmhouses, and the results are so cool and good looking. You can enter pretty much all of the barns and look inside, see where the animals sleep, which is always fun to see, of course. The animals also have pretty large outdoor paddocks over here, and yeah, it has great farm vibes. It's a great farm area, so enjoy some more barnyard animal pack inspiration. But anyway, that is all I wanted to share with you about the Erlebnis Zoo Hannover today. I hope you enjoyed, got some inspiration. Let me know if you'd still like to see a full zoo tour of this place in the future, and I'll see if I ever get around to it. I'll see you soon with more Zoo Tour Snippets video about my trip. The next place I visited was the Zoo of Magdeburg, so probably that will be the next video. See you then. Bye bye.